Well, it's Monday morning. It's a beautiful day. And who let the dogs out? Basically, who let the Krakens out? Man, I remember years ago, I used to have some really serious no bull dogs, I mean, tough. And not to say that these guys aren't tough, because they're all here because, they did something wrong. They did something crazy. They injured a person or another dog. I mean, they were aggressive. But we got them all here. I work with these guys. I talk different from most people who work with dogs because I talk about the relationship between, hey, what are you doing? Eating out of the trash can? Interesting. This is 5150, man. I mean, these guys, they got issues that I'm working with. And you got to be able to understand that dogs with issues are going to do some crazy things. I call them 5150s. They won't eat their dog food, but they're going to eat shit or whatever, something stupid. And you got to be able to understand that that's how dogs are. And you got to be able to understand how to help them. But getting back to what I was saying, when I talk about people and the relationship with their dogs and how the relationship with your dog is just like the relationship with a person, I need you to count on that. Look, I just had a dog that was picked up, that's been here with me. People and dog aggression was perfect, has been great with all the dogs and myself. Soon as the owner comes, the dog turns on me. Turncoats on me. Now, not that it bit me, but it started barking and being somewhat protective of the owner. Where's that come from? Why is that happening? Is that a dog problem or is that a people problem? That's a people problem. So when I tell you don't do this, don't do that with your dog, you shouldn't be playing these games, you shouldn't be tug of war, you shouldn't be blah, 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 you might be thinking, but then you can't solve your problem is because you don't understand where it comes from. I'm carrying it to the source. We're dealing with a creature that is easily imprinted on, very easily imprinted on, just like a child. Look at this guy. Look at this. See, he doesn't like that. You hear him growling? And I'm telling him I don't like it when he does that. That's a need for him to do this. Remember, we talked about this guy yesterday. This is Robert. Remember Robert? And this guy, he's got a chip on him. He's got an edge to him. But if he is humping him and this guy doesn't like it, but he's not listening to what he says, then it's my job to step in and say, hey, did you hear that? That's what a parent would do. Did you hear what I told you not to do? This is what it's all about. You see this body posturing? This is a subdominant dog right here. Subdominant dog. Someone says, oh, I don't know, man. Maybe you're talking a bunch of crap. Maybe this is bull. Look, man, I've been doing this so long. You don't get to be old being a fool. Some people, there ain't no fool like an old fool. But look, I've been doing this for so long. I've seen just about everything related to aggression. Okay? I've seen all kinds of fights. It's just my life. So when you say that what I'm talking about is not real or it's bull, then what am I doing all these years? That same person that might say that because they're hearing something that they never heard before, because they're used to training one-on-one, which has to do with sit, stay, come, heel, and all of these problems that we're dealing with our dogs, that we're trying to go and make them do something else that has nothing to do with the actual problem. The actual problem. I'm talking about going back to the source. Look, years ago, let's go back many, many years. We're talking about products that were put out by people for dogs, prong collars, shock collars, halters, halties, you name it. No pull harnesses, whatever you might want to deal with. all these things, and I've taught people how to use them in the past. As I said, when you were a child, you thought like a child. When you grow up, you do things differently. And so we use these things to try to control the dog physically. But the problem is mental. That's like trying to treat the foot to fix the head. And you use all these things trying to physically control the dog. And then you get that dog that's 150 pounds that you can't physically control, that pulls you down. You know, that dog that injures you. I remembering speaking about, badass dogs. I remember I had this one dog here that one morning, it was a morning like this, everybody was out, weather was nice, the atmosphere was pretty cool and laid back. Look at this. Look at this. Okay, Robert. You see how he looks up at me? And now that he has looked at me, he says, man, you should have stopped this by then. Okay? Look at this guy running off. His tail's not so far up, though. I remember I had a dog start off, his tail so far up his behind, I had to train a flea to find it. But anyway, as I said, we're still going to be dealing with him. He's a special case. But these two guys here. So, again, I moved forward towards him, but he looked up at me. He knew. He says, he should have stopped that by now. You see? So I pay attention to that. I pay attention to everything that I see, everything around me. When you're an alpha, everything within your eyesight is your domain, and you got to deal with it. But back to the story. It's a beautiful day, just like today, Monday. And this guy, this is a pretty cool situation, just like this. All of a sudden, it broke out where this dog grabbed another dog. And I mean, he was powerful. Back then, I never had one, but I heard about them. I've seen them. It's called a breaking stick. This dog grabbed this other dog, and I was cleaning up, so I had to use this broomstick and put it in between his mouth to get him to stop biting this other dog. But before you could do that, there's something that's called a rebite. For those of you who've been in a lot of dog fights, a rebite is when a dog grabs, okay? But they didn't get a good grip, you see? And so what happens when a dog does that, I'll grab them closely by my body, their head, and pull them up. And when I do that, after I lift them up a bit, and the dog that they have puts a little weight on them, they try to rebite. And when that rebite takes place, that's when I can step in and control the situation. So what I want to do is I don't want him to start shaking. The shaking is where all the problem comes in, and the tearing of the skin and that sort of thing. So I get the stick in his mouth. This guy bites down on this broomstick. Show you how powerful these dogs are. Bone-crushing power. He broke that stick in half, ran off shaking it, proud. That's the kind of power that I'm talking about. So after you see enough of that kind of stuff, man, you start thinking, you say, you know what? This physical thing, these physical things that we're using, it's just not going to work, man. It's just not going to work. So what do? I got to get into that dog's mind. And that's where all this stuff comes from. This mental, hormonal manipulating things that I do. Because that works. So the reason I'm harping on this thing is because when you use a collar, a shock collar, or a halter, or whatever device is made out there for you to control your dog, when you are doing that, believe me, you have become a slave to that thing. Because if you don't have it, then you're never free. You never feel free that you're in control. It's not until you take the collar off, the muzzle off, the halter off, the shock collar off, all these things off of him, that you can start controlling him mentally, that you really understand what power is. And then you can put all these types of dogs together, no matter the weather, no matter what's happening, and make it work for you, man. That's power. It takes a lot of time. I spent a lot of years learning this simplicity, even though it's very complicated. So when I tell you something, count on it, man. It's not something that I'm thinking about or wish that it would be someplace. It has been tried and tested, front, back, and 3 sides flat. And that's why when I tell people that you can't hear me at your stage because I'm reading from a later page, I'm talking about the experiences that I have had that could blow your mind. I can't even sit here today and talk to you about all the things that I have seen and done with dogs. It has to come out in spurts. Sometimes I gotta have someone ask me a question that's different from what someone else has asked, and then it sparks, and then I can talk about it. You know, it's like unlocking, sticking that stick in the computer and unlocking something. And that's what I do here. So if I'm telling you something, count on it. If someone says, oh, he's talking about dogs and people, and you can't talk about dogs with people, and that's a bunch of bull. Look here, man. That same person that says that kind of stuff is the same person that's sitting at home, sleeping in the bed with their dogs, kissing them in the mouth, sitting on the couch, watching their favorite love story, crying and holding their dog, feeding them table scraps, talking to them like a human being. And they're saying that what I'm talking about is bull. When I talk about dogs and people, and you go home and you act like this is a person in your house, but I'm talking bull, you better check yourself. And look, I don't care whether you do these things with your dog. I tell people, those who have come to me, they know. I say, look, you can sleep in the bed with your dog. You can sit on the couch with your dog. You can feed them table scraps. You can do whatever you want to do, as long as what you're doing is not a problem for you. But if it is a problem, and you're doing it, and you continue to do the same thing, and you don't listen to what I'm saying, what's the different definition of insanity? Think about it, man. Look, if you don't like the things that I'm saying, because they don't correlate with what you have learned as a trainer, as a behaviorist. Look at this guy. He said, look, you little youngsters, you little young whippersnappers, get out of my way. I don't want all this nonsense knuckleheads around me. That's all he's saying. But he's got to be able to say that. And look at him, he comes over to me. He's got to be able to say that. He's got to be able to express himself as a dog, and at the same time, be able to be balanced enough to not carry it too far. That's what he's got to be able to do. And he comes over to me just to say, okay, I'm with you. These are all the senior boys and girls. These are the knuckleheads. They're just learning. It's okay. I got after this guy. He didn't want to be humped. And he says, you know what? I'm looking for shelter. I'm looking for safety. I'm going to go over here close by where you go inside. You see? That's what he's saying. So I don't say anything to him because I'm in agreement with that, so I allow that to happen. If you're having problems with your dog and you're trying to train them, then you're going to miss the mark. You better understand them. See, training is trying to teach someone something that supposedly doesn't know. These guys know. You need to understand what they know. Then you don't have to train. Just the understanding. And in the understanding, you will discover what it is you need to do on the level that nature has wired this thing to happen. So when I talk to you, I'm kicking knowledge that has come from years and years and years of experience, years and years of trials and tribulations, mistakes that have been made that don't have to be made again. I've seen it, man. I've seen some of the worst dogs, and I've seen some of the best dogs. I've seen dogs that have become so tuned with people, you can't even look at them because they're going to become aggressive. Look at this girl. Look at the expression on her face, how she is submitting to his authority, his power. That's what nature says. Look at this. You're going to tell me that this dog is not subdominant when I know all of her other behaviors? You're going to say, no, that's fear? Then you're looking at it from a human's perspective and you're going to miss the mark. Don't think that you can help somebody with their dog and misinterpret what's happening with nature and think that you're going to be successful. There are a lot of people out there that are doing it, and I say that they're faking it till they make it. They are shaking and baking, and they don't know what they're talking about, but I get that. But don't diss what you don't know, thinking that what you do know, and sell that bill of goods to people. Don't do that. Just have an open mind, man. I'm giving it to you like it is. That slang, I'm giving it to you, man, like it really is. And if you can't handle it, just wait a little while. Shut your mouth, man. Just listen and watch what I'm telling you, what I'm saying to you. The old way of working with dogs is history. It's a legend, man. This is the new way. To understand this animal, you must be able to get with it. Be a realist. As I mentioned to you, I'm being a realist more and more each day. Every year, there's a different level that I go to. And if you watch my videos, if you've been around, you'll see where I'm growing. I'm not afraid to grow. I'm not afraid to say that I'm growing and seeing things. And when you see things and discover from what you're seeing, then you begin to grow. You grow in a way that you're so far above what you thought you knew that it's difficult for people to catch up. And so they're going to say silly things and write things and, make comments. But they have no solution, no answers to it. Look at this guy. Look at him. This is the one that likes to poke the bull. Look at the alpha telling him what to do. Huh? Look at that. What, I'm going to tell him to sit, to down, to stay? No, I'm going to let him express himself so this thing can be pushed so far away that it won't happen. You remember I said I'm going to let the dogs deal with him first? Then it makes it easier for me to deal with him. See, he's trying to toy with them a little bit, make light of it. You notice how our dogs do that with us when we tell them no? They do the same thing. And then we just let it go. Can't do it. So back to being a realist. What does that mean? Yeah, let me finish talking first. He sees this guy talking to me, and he wants to get in him. Hear him giving that little guttural noise. He's talking to him, man. He said, this got nothing to do with you. This is about me and my man, which is me. But he wants to be a part of it. So back to being a realist. This is some real stuff right here. This is real. This is a conversation that's taking place to his company, through a crowd. And he'll tell them. He'll let them know. Everybody's around me. They know who I represent. I don't lie to them. I tell them what I don't like. You never hear me say sit. You never hear me say down. You never hear me say stay. I like come, but all I have to do is move and they will come. What is making this guy do what he does is a feeling. That feeling comes from a hormone that's being produced by the environment that I have created for him to live in. He is responding to the reality that I have created. That is as plain as the nuts on a hog. If you want to change your dog, change your environment, change the concept, change the reality that you have with them, that's what you're going to do to make this change. There's no way that you can get all of these dogs who have done some horrible things to people and other dogs together and be able to control them, big, small, medium, and large. You gotta understand them from the inside out. And if you don't like it, if you don't like what I'm saying, just cool your ego, man. Just cool your ego and, cool it with your remarks. Some of your remarks, I pick my battles. Some of your remarks, I'll take them and I'll use them and make an example out of you to those who follow and believe me, just to have a little fun. Sometimes you got to have a little fun. But I pick my battles. Why? Because I'm about winning. When I work with dogs, I win. And so when people are against me, sometimes I just sidetrack them because I know they're just small fries. They just want to get on and talk, but they have no solutions. I know what their solutions are. They don't work. They only work for subordinate dogs because that's what breeders bred for, subordinate dogs to listen to little subordinate things. But when you get with the big boys, you can't piss in the tall weeds with the big dogs if you don't have enough knowledge. And this is what I'm giving everybody, this knowledge. I've been doing it so long that when I do it, you can't even see what I'm doing. You got to listen and watch, and every now and then you'll catch a glimpse, the light bulb will go off, and you'll say, ooh, okay, I got that. See this guy here? See how he's coming to me now? This is important. This is a method to this madness. He's skittish, but he wants to be near me. I'm working on him. You understand? Look at him. He wants to be near me. He knows where the power and where the safety is. When all things go crazy, they come near me because they know this is power. You got to be able to take that and say, okay, this guy's had enough, put him away. He sits there thinking he can protect me. We do it again. He becomes closer and closer and closer. That's how this thing works. But anyway, I've talked enough. I'm sure those who don't agree with what I'm saying, thinking that this is a lot of bull, I just want to let you know that the comments, if you don't know what you're talking about, I'm just going to take them and I'm going to wipe my aspirations with it. You better believe it, because I know what I see, and I've seen it too much to change or to go back. And I don't want anybody that's watching me, that's been around, that's being successful with their dog, to ever backstep, move forward, ever moving forward. Move forward. When you do that, oh my gosh, there's something inside of you that's going to flip, and you're going to become a new person. Just think about this. I'm going to sign off after this, but think about this. To give something your unconditional love, to give it your unconditional love, to be able to give something your unconditional love, and not be able to understand that thing that you give unconditional love to, that's a tragedy. That's a tragedy. That's incomprehensible, man. To take something, and some people love dogs more than they love to be around people. But to think that you're going to teach something, that you have no control over the love that you give it, you think you're going to teach it something, that's the thing that you need to be learning from. How can this thing pull out of me something that I can't give to other people? That's the riddle. That's what I want my people who watch and believe me and the Fouché Way family to think about. Unconditional love. Because that is the Achilles heel. That's the thing that we need to understand and be able to get into and say, wow, here's a creature emotionally that can make me feel a certain way, but I don't know how to understand it. That should be your mission. And with that, I'll say what I always say. We'll continue.